Hello everyone, Nick the DM here. I know, this isn't one of the demon videos I said I was working on earlier. I was planning to keep working on the demon videos until they were completely finished, but that has taken longer than anticipated. Instead, in today's video, we are covering a creature I have been waiting to cover for a while. The Time Dragon. Since the new Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse was announced, we were given little snippets of what the books would contain. One of those mentioned the mighty Time Dragon being reintroduced to 5th edition, which gives me the perfect reason to push this video to the front of my to-do list. However, we can't just look at the new shiny Time Dragon. No, that's not how I do things. We're taking a look at everything the Time Dragon is and has been. So let's start off with the first appearance of the Time Dragon in Dragon Magazine, issue 359 for 3.5e. All of dragonkind has a unique relationship with time, growing ever stronger and never succumbing to the ravages of time like memory troubles or bodily decay until the very end of its life. Yet one breed of dragon interacts with time in a way only it can, breathing it, eating it, and living as part of time in such a way that it is a manifestation of time itself. Likely one of the, if not the rarest and strongest breeds of dragon, the Time Dragon. Time dragons are a type of epic dragon, first introduced in the Epic Level Handbook for 3.5e. These mighty creatures share the same general traits as true dragons. They are enormous winged reptilian creatures that have distinct age categories, specifically 12 age categories for 3.5e. They have breath weapons and numerous mighty physical attacks. As an epic dragon, time dragons have the following features that distinguish them from common dragons. Of course, these are in addition to the typical features all true dragons have, like blind sense and dark vision and the like. Epic dragons are much larger. The wormlings are categorized as huge creatures. They live much longer and show even greater increases in power from one age category to the next, and the unusual energy or concept they extend mastery over, in this case, time itself. Time dragons do not fall easily into categories based on alignment and temperament. Epic dragons, like the Time dragons, display greater individual variation, showing a range of personalities, wider perhaps than even humans. Some living sheltered hermit-like lives, and others battling for good or evil with the same passion as outsiders with those alignments. They tend towards neutral as they care more for their own interests than the well-being or subjugation of other creatures, rejecting the extremes of alignment and the conflicts they produce. The oldest time dragons grow to such gigantic proportions that other colossal dragons seem small in comparison. They possess greater reach and damage than other colossal dragons, and their breath weapons reach further than most colossal dragons. But, as of 3.5e, their size didn't impose any disadvantages beyond that any colossal common dragon would have. This was a size category called Colossal Plus. Starting as a wormling, a time dragon already possessed certain abilities like Frightful Presence, Spellcasting, and Spell Resistance that other dragons would not acquire until a later stage in life. Now to talk about things specific to just time dragons, not all epic dragons. Time dragons are sometimes also called chronology dragons, epoch dragons, or ageless dragons. They rarely interact with mortals or even immortals for that matter. Time dragons have charcoal gray scales that lay close to its flesh and have no ridges, giving the dragon a smooth look. An hourglass-shaped mask of black scales surrounds its eyes, and 12 evenly spaced lines of black scales radiate down along its back like tree rings. A spike the shape of a gnomon, the fin of a sundial, extends from the back of its skull, effectively doubling the length of its head. The time dragon's triangular wings spread out from their narrowest point at its back to give them the overall shape of an hourglass. Two spikes of different lengths protrude from the end of its tail, giving it two tips. So essentially the Time Dragon is comprised of numerous features resembling different timepieces, clocks, sundials, hourglasses, you get the picture. A Wormling Time Dragon's scales appear silvery white and lack black stripes or black eye masks. As the Time Dragon approaches very young, its mask and stripes grow in, and its scales darken. The black stripes gradually change as the Time Dragon ages, each moving back along the length of its body and reappearing again near its eye mask when the 12th stripe runs off the tip of its tail. I'll be honest, this is kind of confusing the way they worded it, but what I believe this means is the Time Dragon, as it grows, its scale pattern slowly grows towards its tail, and probably the scales will molt, in which case a new black stripe will appear up near its black eye mask, as it said, and then it will continue on like such, almost like they are moving and counting time, kind of like another timepiece reference. The Time Dragon has two types of breath weapon, a line of ravaging time and a cone of time expulsion. The line of ravaging time ages creatures and objects within it by 1 year per age category of the dragon with no save. Creatures take 1 constitution damage, and objects lose 1 point of hardness per age category of the dragon as well. A fortitude save can reduce these secondary effects by half, but the aging still takes effect. This breath weapon can be up to 160 feet long at Colossal Plus size. The Cone of Time Expulsion throws creatures through time, causing them to disappear and then reappear a number of rounds later, equal to the age category of the dragon. These creatures aren't frozen in time, but neither can they act. They are essentially removed from the time stream and do not exist until it catches up to them and they return. And this was surprisingly only an 80-foot cone from a Colossal Plus sized Time Dragon. A Time Dragon emerges from its egg with some level of natural control over the flow of time and its own place within the flow. From hatching, a Time Dragon has the ability to accelerate its actions relative to the actions of others. Using a free action, a Time Dragon can act as though affected by the haste spell for up to 5 rounds each day. The duration of the haste effect doesn't need to be consecutive rounds, so the dragon can split these up through the day. The next feature of the Time Dragons is its time mastery. Thanks to its greater control over its connection, or lack thereof, to the flow of time, an adult or older Time Dragon operated continuously under the effects of a haste spell. The dragon cannot suppress this ability, and if dispelled, it automatically resumes at the start of the dragon's next turn, without any action or conscious thought on the part of the Time Dragon. A Time Dragon is immune to slow effects, the most obvious example being the slow spell. Time Dragons had the ability to cast Time Stop at will using a standard action. However, the Time Dragon cannot remain completely removed from the time stream and must wait 2d4 rounds between uses of this ability. This ability was available to Time Dragons from the time it hatched. However, the time mastery the dragon gained as of adult age allowed the dragon to slip into and out of the time stream more effectively, only needing to wait 1d4 rounds between uses of its Time Stop ability. Here's an interesting one. Time Dragons had the ability to, once per day, as a swift action, borrow time from the future. This was called Draconic Surge. This allowed the Time Dragon to take an extra standard action or move action during its turn. Very young to mature adult Time Dragons could use this ability once per day, and old or older Time Dragon could use this twice per day. The next thing possessed by the Time Dragons is a slow aura. An ancient or older Time Dragon had godlike control over time, but also a much lesser amount of control over the space around it. It could express this control by emanating a slow aura up to 10 feet per age category for up to 10 rounds each day. The dragon could choose to emanate the slow aura as a free action that must be made every round the Time Dragon wishes to maintain it. The duration of the slow aura doesn't need to be consecutive rounds. Creatures are automatically affected as by the slow spell with no save each round they begin their turn within the area of the aura. One of the biggest things for the time dragon is their time apotheosis. Once a time dragon lives long enough to become a great worm, it has such an intricate tie to the time stream that it can move backward and forward through time almost at will. This movement through time allowed a Great Worm Dragon to wait only one round between uses of its time stop spell-like ability. In addition, a Great Worm Time Dragon becomes immune to any spell or effect with a duration greater than instantaneous cast on it by another creature, as well as effects that can affect it over time or that require the passage of time, such as dehydration, disease, poison, and starvation. It is not immune to its own non-instantaneous spells and effects, however. Because a Great Worm Time Dragon can make forays into possible futures, it rolls 2d20 on every d20 roll it makes, taking the better of the two results, essentially unlimited advantage. Lastly, a Great Worm Time Dragon can make forays into the past and into possible futures. Such trips require preparation and cannot be performed within the time frame of a combat. When it comes to traveling through time, generally the longer into the past or future the time dragon wishes to explore, the more resources it must expend. The details of this preparation, as well as the actual specifics of time dragon, are outside of the scope of the article that the time dragon was published in, and really only affects player characters if they become willing or unwilling assistants to a time dragon. At the very least, a time dragon must spend several minutes in preparation of traveling through time, meditating and preparing itself physically and mentally for its journey. Time traveling campaigns are their own thing entirely and were mentioned in Dragon Magazine 350 with the Chronomancy article, and I'll probably eventually cover the different schools of magic, but don't hold your breath. Apart from their at-will time stop, 3.5e time dragons have one other spell-like ability. 3 times per day, they can cast Slow as of juvenile age. Speaking of magic, epic dragons with a caster level above 20th gained additional spell slots beyond 9th level, allowing them to get access to 10th level spell slots. And epic dragon casters had access to the Empower and Maximize spell-like ability features. Time Dragons have a caster level ranging from 4th at Wormling to 37th at Great Worm, and they have a spell resistance of 35 at Wormling and 99 at Great Worm. For Time Dragons, all knowledge skills like Arcana, Architecture, Dungeoneering, Geography, History, Local, Nature, Nobility, and Royalty, Religion, and the Planes for 3.5e, and Speak Languages are class skills for the Time Dragon, meaning they can increase these drastically as they age. The example time dragon Geotraxuzite, oh boy, I'm going to butcher that name, but here it is on screen, knows Celestial, Common, Draconic, plus 55 more dialects and racial languages, just as an example for the Speak Languages ability, and he's just a wormling. All time dragons automatically know Draconic. Strategies and tactics of the Time Dragons. Time Dragons have better things to do than engage in the potential dangers of combat, so they never hesitate to use every ability at their disposal to end a fight as quickly as possible, or to simply flee if overwhelmed. As a note, most Time Dragons are as satisfied with incapacitating their enemies as killing them. They make extensive use of their Time Stop ability to move around the battlefield and set up spells to hinder or kill their opponents. Generally, Time Dragons start with their most powerful spells, weakening any who survive with their ravaging Time Breath. Time Dragons never willingly fight to the death. The Ecology of Time Dragons. Only disasters or other creatures can kill Time Dragons. The passage of time itself cannot. This makes them the only truly immortal non-deific or deific dragons. Because of their unique ties to the time stream, time dragons age randomly, so knowing the age category of a time dragon does not therefore give an accurate estimation of its age, as shown on the following chart. To use this chart, it says to roll for each age category the time dragon has to see how long it took for it to reach its current level or maturity and actual age. Additionally, for each age category the dragon has, you add 5% to the roll. So, if I'm reading this right, a Great Worm Time Dragon rolls a d100 12 times, or maybe 11, I don't know if you count the wormling, and adds 60% for each roll, which can end up making the time dragon incredibly old. Time dragons younger than great worms can go months without eating, but doing so makes them lethargic. As typical for dragons, they can eat anything and frequently do so, not bothering with hunting down living food. For their environment, time dragons can live anywhere they find air to breathe. They prefer remote locations for their lairs, although as semi-nomadic creatures, they rarely claim a place as their lair for more than a few years. Great worms often relocate their lairs to some distant point in time, such as before the rise of humanity or after their fall. Time dragons have no society. They live apart from one another and other living creatures, preferring to spend the time they deign to socialize with deities and other powerful immortals. Roughly once a millennium, a group of 4 to 10 time dragons come together for the purpose of procreation. As soon as all the females in the group have been fertilized, the dragons disband and likely never see one another again. In 2011, a question was posed to Ed Greenwood, creator of the Forgotten Realms. Quote, "Given the issues with chronomancy, do time dragons exist in any great number within the realms?" End quote. To which Ed Greenwood responded, quote, "No." End quote. He did go on to respond to another question asking whether any archmages have studied the time dragons for their abilities, if anyone had gotten access to them. His more detailed response was, quote, "Not in any great number. A few time dragons have been studied in passing to investigate the bad effects of their proximity to gates, mythals, wards, and certain other long-term enchantments. They tend to make such enchantments unstable, and trigger certain built-in reactions within the magics to events/situations that haven't in fact occurred. This is unintentional on the part of the time dragons, not something done deliberately. Time dragons seem to shun the realms for as yet unknown reasons." End quote. So while time dragons are known, they seem to not spend any great amount of time within the Forgotten Realms. I am unaware as to their preferences towards other well-known worlds/settings. Now for treasure. Time dragons and all epic dragons covet and hoard wealth as other dragons do. Though their collections tend to focus less on coins and more on magic lore and exquisite pieces of art. They rarely put much effort into their hoards, abandoning and rebuilding them hundreds of times over the long course of years. A time dragon does jealously guard anything in its hoard that measures time, from a mundane sundial to a mechanically wondrous water clock. Time dragons start with damage resistance 10 to all but epic weapons. This increases slowly throughout the age categories, in addition to having a flat damage resistance to all sources, until very old age category, when the time dragon maxes out at a damage resistance of 20, which counts towards all sources of damage. The time dragons of 3.5e had an armor class of 42 at Wormling age category and got up to 92 at Great Worm. For comparison, a Great Worm Gold Dragon only had an armor class of 42. The hit points for a Time Dragon Wormling are 682 hit points, and grow to a staggering 3,712 hit points at Great Worm. I think a comparison is unnecessary, but just for the sake of it, a Great Worm Gold Dragon has 717 hit points. Time dragons also had very decent flying speeds at 380 feet for a Great Worm, while a Great Worm Gold Dragon just had 250 feet of flying speed, though flying speeds differed a lot more between different types of dragons in 3.5e than they do in 5th edition. Just as an example for the ability scores of time dragons, and I'll make this quick, a Great Worm Gold Dragon has a strength score of 47. Time Dragon Wormlings have the same score and have a 91 strength score at Great Worm. Wormling time dragons have a 10 dexterity all the way through to Great Worm age category. Constitution starts at a 29, which is the same as an ancient gold dragon, and a Great Worm time dragon has a 73 constitution. Intelligence starts at 30, which is the same as a worm gold dragon, and at Great Worm, the time dragon reaches a 74 intelligence. Wisdom is a 37 at Wormling, higher than even a Great Worm Gold Dragon at 33, and Time Dragons can get up to an 81 at Great Worm. And finally, Charisma is a 30 for Wormlings, the same as a Worm Gold Dragon, and can increase to 74. Now for the newly updated Time Dragons for 5th edition. Time Dragons are essentially immortal, omnipresent dragons that can control the flow of time. They are often neutral in alignment and, as such, are likely to be driven by a desire to maintain the delicate equilibrium between good and evil forces. Time Dragons in 5th edition emerge from a steely blue egg. Time Dragons are sleek in figure, the Wormlings are born with shining scales, and have horns that are barely more than nubs. As they master the flow of time, their horns grow with branching, rainbow-hued veins, suggestive of time's path and possibilities. From the time they are born, Time Dragons possess an innate mastery over the flow of time. As they age, their time manipulation powers grow with them. Time Dragons can desynchronize their foes from the timeline with their breath weapon. Their time breath causes force damage, and then if you fail your save, attack rolls against you have advantage until you save from the effect. An adult Time Dragon additionally subjects targets that failed their save to the poisoned condition, and an ancient Time Dragon further adds the effect that all other creatures have resistance to all damage a target of the breath weapon deals. And, of course, these effects last until the target saves against the breath weapon, but Time Dragons make it so the affected creature may need to make multiple saves. Young Time Dragons require 2 successful saving throws to end effects, each saving throw coming at the end of the creature's turn, so it would have to succeed on its first round and then on its second round to actually end the effect. And adult and ancient Time Dragons require 3 saves. They do not have to be 3 consecutive saves, it just has to be 3 saving throws before the effects end. And the final effect of a Time Dragon's breath weapon, any non-magical object or vegetation in the area turns to dust. This includes corpses. So if a dead party member gets hit, only stronger reviving magic can bring them back. Adult Time Dragons can slip through time, throw other creatures backwards and forwards through time, and dilate time around themselves, so much so that it affects what other creatures experience. Ancient Time Dragons gain the ability to gate through time and space, traveling anywhere and almost any time in the multiverse's existence. Using Time Gate, an ancient Time Dragon can gate through the very fabric of time, allowing the dragon to travel to specific moments up to 8,000 years from the present, anywhere in the multiverse. Ancient Time Dragons also have a unique relationship with life and death. If an ancient Time Dragon dies, the essence converges into an egg, which then teleports to a random plane. The most incredible thing happens next. After 1d100 years, the egg hatches, and the dragon reborn from the egg possesses all memories and knowledge of its previous existence. Time Dragons in 5th edition go from challenge rating 5 at Wormling to CR 11 at Young, CR 18 at Adult, or CR 26 at Ancient. However, a Time Dragon encountered in its lair has its challenge rating increased by 1. This being specifically adult and ancient, so an adult Time Dragon's challenge rating in its lair is 19, and ancient Time Dragon's challenge rating is 27, making them as powerful as the Great Worms from Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. In terms of armor class and hit points, they are comparable to red dragons of the same age category. Strength-wise, they actually fall behind most dragons, only having 28 at Ancient, which puts them below gold, red, silver, blue, and some others. By no means are they weak, 28 is still amazing, and the Time Dragons have significant other offensive capabilities. For dexterity, Time Dragons of 5th edition have comparable dexterity to gold dragons at older age categories, but during the Time Dragon's younger years, its dexterity is less than the gold dragon of the same age category. When it comes to Constitution, Time Dragons fall around the mid-range, maxing out at a score of 26 at Ancient. Intelligence, however, is where the Time Dragon excels. Ancient Time Dragons have an intelligence score of 27. The only dragons with higher intelligence than time dragons as of the release date of this video are gem great worms and a number of named dragons, mostly from Strixhaven: A Curriculum of Chaos. The wisdom of time dragons, like the constitution score, coasts along the mid-range for dragons, higher than most metallic and chromatic, but below gem and the likes of great worms. Finally, we have charisma. Not so surprisingly, time dragons have a mid-range charisma as well. Ancient time dragons having a 23 charisma. This makes sense when you think about their solitary nature. Adult and ancient time dragons can take up to 3 reactions per round, but only 1 per turn, and they get special reactions. They have their reactive rend, where upon using a legendary resistance or taking a hit, a time dragon can lash out at their foes. They also have slow time, a reaction where they can reduce the speed of any targets weakened by their time breath to 0, and time slip, which allows the dragon to have the damage from an attack and immediately teleport away from harm. Time dragons can further manipulate time and space to their advantage with layer actions. Temporal Fling takes opponents out of the initiative order for a round and deals psychic damage. Temporal Leg can be used to slow down intruders, making it so all creatures within 60 feet of the time dragon have to either move or take an action on their turn, and they can't take a bonus action or reaction until initiative count 20 on the next round. And Timeline Divergence lets the time dragon exist in 2 places at once. This lasts until initiative count 20 on the next round. This doesn't allow the time dragon to act twice as one would assume. It allows the dragon to choose to move or act with whichever of the 2 versions it decides to. However, if an attack or effect can target both versions of the dragon or both of the dragon's spaces, the dragon is affected only once. As most adult and ancient dragons do, time dragons have an effect on the world around them. The regional effects caused by the time dragon are time dilation, which makes short rests either take 10 minutes or 2 hours, and timelessness. Beasts, humanoids, and plants within 3 miles of the time dragon lair age only 1 year for every 10 years that passes. Of course, these effects end in 1d10 days if the dragon dies. Time dragons have the normal senses most commonly found in Dragons of 5th edition, that being blind sight and dark vision, with no special exceptions to them. They also have a high number of legendary resistances, 3 per day at adult age, which is typical, but ancient time dragons have 5 legendary resistances per day. They also know a surprising number of languages, probably because of all the time they have to do so. Wormling time dragons know Draconic plus 2 additional languages. Young know Draconic plus 4. Adult and Ancient, however, know all languages. Time dragons can walk, climb, and fly. However, the 5th edition time dragons lack one thing other dragons do, and that is legendary actions. Seemingly in exchange for all their other abilities, such as the extra reactions, time dragons lost the ability to use legendary actions. Like all dragons, time dragons love treasure hoards. However, you are less likely to find gold or jewels in their hoard. Instead, you might uncover an ancient tome detailing forgotten civilizations, relics of bygone eras, and treasures crafted by hands that turned to dust eons ago. If you're looking for secret knowledge that has slipped through the annals of history, seeking out a time dragon would be a good place to start. They are fascinated with time manipulation magic and forgotten knowledge. Time dragons often lair in the ruins of ancient civilizations or temples to dead gods and do their utmost to preserve these historical sites. A time dragon's insatiable desire for knowledge means it is likely to have more than one such lair. And that is it for the time dragon, both the old and the new version. Personally, I think that the designers did a really good job at converting the Time Dragon into 5th edition, and that's saying something because I liked the concept of the 3.5e Time Dragon and had a lot of worries when I heard they were bringing them back to 5th edition, which has very little epic level content. It is, by default, the strongest type of dragon based on challenge rating, apart from named ones and great worms. And while its ability scores and challenge rating are significantly lower compared to 3.5e, the feel of the Time Dragon is there. They are still masters over time and have many of the same or similar abilities to the original. It's just toned down for 5th edition. And I personally really enjoy when creatures are powerful without having maxed out ability scores. But let me know what you think about the new Time Dragon in the comments. Anyways, that is it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, please consider giving this video a like and maybe subscribe to help the channel grow. Thanks again, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!